Hi everyone, I'm Michelle and I'm going to teach you an unmounted lesson on tying a rope halter correctly and safely. So quickly, a couple things about this halter. It's completely made of rope. It has a fedora knot here and a noseband here and a crown piece here. You have your lead line attached to another loop here and your lead line. So a couple of the common mistakes with teaching this, or for people doing it the first couple of times, is where they tie the knot and where they have it placed on the horse's head. It's very loose, it's very soft, so it can slip and move. So when you put it on for the first time and tie it, you want to make sure it's in the proper position. So we'll come in here with Cinnamon. Hi, Cinnamon. And we'll approach the horse safely from the left side. And she's a good girl, very, very mellow. And I'll get her to back up just a couple steps so I have some room. Good girl. And I'll place the lead line over her withers here, just so it's off the ground so she doesn't step on it. And so, undoing the knot, now we have the two pieces. We're gonna place the noseband. It has these knots, which are pressure points, which tells her what to do, whichever way we move it. And she has her head down, which is nice, and we'll gently slip it over her nose. And we want these knots to not be on the soft tissue of the nose here. So we want it to be a little bit up. And some people reach up over the neck. I like to flip it around and have it hit me in the head, so I know that it's not gonna hit her in the eye or anything like that, because I usually always have a hat on. But the other way to do it is to reach over and grab it and pull it up this way. There's different schools of thought on that. So then we're gonna make sure none of this is twisted, that this is right, that these knots are placed correctly. And then we're gonna pull it and make sure that it's tight that way. I kind of hold it like that with the knot and then make sure it's placed correctly. And then what we're gonna do is slip it through this way. And again, we might have to do a couple adjustings, make it tight enough. And then here's one thing that's very common. You wanna be below the loop, but above this knot. And so you're going to gently put it around there. And I kind of hold it with my finger there because it will loosen. And that's a lot of the hard part initially, is the mechanics of putting this halter, is kind of figuring out how to keep your tension and things like that. And then I take this part of it and you go back through the loop and towards the back of the horse, like so. So now you have your knot in between this knot and the Theodore loop. And then some people can, kind of clasp it right there so it's not banging around. Sometimes these are a lot longer depending on the size of the horse. And so there you go. And she's got a little bit of wiggle room here. The knots look to be nicely placed here, and she's comfortable. So now what I'll do is I'll take this off. And do you have any questions before we start?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so now our student here will take this off gently. And now she thinks she's free, so hopefully she doesn't run away. And we'll have our student demonstrate how to put the halter on. There we go. Here's our lovely student.
Hello. Okay. Hi, Cinnamon.
Mm-hmm.
Good girl.
Oh, there we go. We'll get that over her neck, and then we could have her take a step back if we needed to. We are a little cramped in the corner. One thing is to always set yourself up for success. There we go. That's probably a little better. And good job finding and we've got Star here that wants to be involved. Good job placing that through and adjusting it. That's the thing, is these knots all have a specific role in the halter, and they're strategically placed to where they tell the horse with pressure what we want them to do. So these can be a little cumbersome, and people sometimes like them, sometimes they don't. But when they're done properly, they're actually really a great halter. And so that looks good. So what would we do if the knot was tied up here? How would that affect our halter a little bit, do you think? If we had mistakenly either place it above or maybe below, sometimes that's a common mistake where people will tie it down here.
Pressure, maybe?
Yeah.
Incorrect pressure.
definitely. That would probably be pretty uncomfortable for them, huh?
Yeah.
And then another big mistake that people do accidentally, of course, I don't think it's intentional, is they do it too loose. And then these knots end up down on top of her, soft tissue here. And that could, even if they pulled, could tighten and even, scare them more, cut off their breathing and things like that. So having these placed specifically in this little groove here is perfect. So very good job. And then for practice, like homework and getting used to this, you could use a halter stand and practice tying the knots and things like that. And good job. Nice job, Cinnamon. Good girl.